into those heels. And if that's really uncomfortable, some people hate kneeling. If that's too uncomfortable, just come to like a nice seated position. But just closing down your eyes, placing your palms on the tops of your thighs, and dropping the shoulders down away from the ears on the exhale. And on the inhale, just growing out through the crown of your head. Really lengthening through the spine. And just inhaling and exhaling through the nose. And closing down the eyes. And just taking your attention to that breath. So just noticing the rise and fall of your belly. And just noticing that space that you're creating for yourself. Just right here on the mat. And just noticing any faraway sounds outside the room. Without labeling them, just noticing them. And then just taking your attention to inside the room. And just noticing any sounds around you directly. And then just noticing internally how you are. So what comes up for you physically and mentally. And then setting yourself an intention for your practice. So just a sentence starting with I am, or just a word or a phrase that feels relevant for you, that you can take forward through to the rest of the week. And then either keeping your eyes closed if that feels good, or opening them up, and just taking some rolls with your shoulders. So inhaling as you take them up towards your ears, and exhaling as you drop them down towards the back. So just taking some circles with those shoulders, and then going the other way. So inhaling towards the back of the room as they come up, and then exhale, rolling them forwards and down. And then taking your hands onto your shoulders, we'll inhale as we bring the elbows together up towards the ceiling. And then exhale, dropping those elbows down, squeezing those shoulder blades together. Inhale up and exhale, dropping back down. Just in time with your breath. Just working into those shoulders, working into those shoulder blades. And then we'll go the other way. So inhale, take those elbows out and up. And exhale as you bring them forwards, taking them to touch and dropping them down. Maybe you need to see me for this actually. It's hard to know which way round to go. And then dropping your hands by your sides, walking your right fingertips out. And then dropping your left ear towards that left shoulder. So you feel a nice stretch down that right hand side. And then inhale, taking that hand back onto your lap, and exhale, taking that left hand out and dropping your right ear towards that right shoulder. So feeling that pull on that neck. And inhale back up to center and extending our left arm up towards the ceiling. dropping that left hand behind you and taking your right hand onto that left elbow and trying to keep your head in line with those arms so you're not pushing your head forwards, pushing on that left elbow with that right hand. So feeling a nice stretch in that tricep, but also opening out those shoulders. And we'll go the other side. So take that left arm up and drop the right arm down, right hand down even. And push on your right elbow with your left hand. And again, trying to keep that head in line so you're not displacing that neck forward. And then dropping those hands down. We'll come up onto our toes, so we'll go for a toe stretch. If you've not done this before, it can feel really unfamiliar, but it's really quite a nice yogic stretch. So sitting back onto those toes, tucking those toes under, and then making sure that little toe is also tucked under. And growing up through the crown of the head, dropping the shoulders down, and then extending our hands forward. We'll do some finger flicks. So this just warms up the wrists, but also the forearms. And again, you can go as quickly or slowly as you like. But after a few seconds, you really start to feel those forearms engage and warm up. And just staying with the breath, so not holding your breath. And then starting to feel it. We'll stay for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then shaking those arms out and taking our toes out wide and seeing if you can try and sit yourself between your feet. So taking your knees together, and again, don't go too far with it. If it's too difficult, just sit onto those heels again. But just seeing if you can maybe take your fingertips out towards the side, seeing if you can lower yourself between those feet. Just for a thigh stretch here. And just staying here just for a couple of breaths. Before taking the knees out wide, big toes to touch, sitting those sit bones down onto those heels, taking your hands up towards the top of the mat, and we'll come into our child's pose. So forehead onto the mat. And just massaging that forehead into the mat. And then walking our hands towards us. Inhale your right arm up as you plant that left hand down. And then threading that right arm underneath the left. Bringing your right ear to touch onto the mat. And keeping that left hand where it is or walking that left hand forward. And maybe even wrapping that left hand around your back. Grabbing hold of your right thigh or your right leg. Just to work a little bit more into that shoulder. Just doing what feels right for you, what feels good. And just staying with the breath here. And then gradually coming out of it, so placing that left hand down onto the mat, coming up, and placing that right hand down. Inhale the left arm up. And exhale, thread that left arm underneath the right, dropping onto that left ear. And again, just maybe noticing any differences this time, this side. My sit bones are coming further off my heels, a bit tighter on this side. And then either walking those right fingertips forwards towards the top of the mat, or taking that right hand round the waist and grabbing hold of that left thigh or just wrapping it around that lower back. Just opening up that shoulder again. And just staying with the breath here. And taking an inhale, as you exhale, gently coming out of it, so place that right hand down. Draw the knees in together, taking the knees underneath the hips. We'll come into our neutral tabletop position. So hands underneath the shoulders, spreading the fingers, making sure the tops of the feet are flat onto the mat, but also pointing directly towards the back of the room so they're not rolling out or rolling in. And we'll take an inhale as we drop the belly, gaze up towards the ceiling. And exhale, push through the hands, arch the back, finding space between the shoulder blades, chin towards the chest. And just taking some slow cat-cows, and just to the time of your own breath. And then just taking any movement that feels good for you. So sometimes it feels nice to sway the hips out, or walk the hands forward a couple of paces and take some figure of eights, bending into the arms, just warming up that spine. Just nice to feel a bit freer after a day in front of the desk, or repetitive movement, whatever you've been doing. And then coming back to tabletop, so walking your hands underneath those shoulders again, a nice neutral position. We'll take an inhale, and as you exhale, flex your heels towards your glutes, pointing through the toes. Take another inhale, and as you exhale, bend your elbows as you keep them tucked into your torso, and take your nose down to hover on the mat, and we'll inhale back up. So just warming up those forearms a bit, exhaling down, inhale back up. If that's too strong, drop the toes. But really concentrating and keeping those elbows tucked into the torso. And we'll do 3, 2, and 1. And dropping the toes, swaying those hips out from side to side. We'll take an inhale, and as you exhale, send your left leg towards the back of the room, point through those toes, down towards the mat. So almost like you're trying to push the sole of the foot into that back wall. Take another inhale, and as you exhale, send that right arm away, palms facing the midline, so we're in an opposite pull of direction. And gaze down towards the mat, finding that balance, tucking the tailbone ever so slightly, so you're not sinking into that lower back. And stay with the breath. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, take your right elbow towards that left knee to touch, coming into that crunch. And we'll inhale, sending it away. Exhale, crunch. Inhale, send it away. Exhale, crunch. Inhale, send that away. Pausing here just for a breath before placing that right hand down. And we'll point through the left toe. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, lift that left toe up towards the ceiling. And we'll do some pulses here. So we're working into that left glute. And we'll be here for 5, for 4, for 3, for 2, for 1. Flex that foot again and see if you can take it out towards the side. So coming towards the left. Brilliant. Nice, everyone. And we'll pause it here, and we'll do a pulse for 5, for 4, for 3, for 2, for 1. Taking it all the way back to the room, and then dropping that left knee down. Take those hips out from side to side, just releasing through that lower back. And we'll go the other side. So recenter yourself, Checking those hands are underneath those shoulders again. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, send that right foot towards the back of the room. Flex the toes down towards the mat. Take another inhale, and as you exhale, send that left hand away. So opposite pull of direction, energy out through those fingertips and out through the toes. Engage the core. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, take that right knee to meet that left elbow. Inhale, send it away. Exhale, crunch. Inhale, send it away. Exhale, crunch. Inhale, send it away. Pausing here, and as you exhale, drop that right hand down, left hand, point through that right toe, and then extend up towards the ceiling so you can feel that right glute. Just engage even more. And we'll pulse for 5, for 4, for 3, for 2, for 1. Flex through the ankle again, and then bring that foot round towards the right. It's harder this side for me. And holding here, and doing some pulses for 5, for 4, for 3, for 2, for 1. Taking that foot back round and dropping the right knee. Swaying those hips out. Maybe taking a child's pose just to release that lower back. And taking an inhale here. And as you exhale, walking those hands forward, tucking the toes under, and we'll send our hips to the sky, coming into that first downward dog, so being mindful of that, keeping the knees bent, and just seeing if you can push that torso towards those thighs, head in line with those upper arms. And if this is what's feeling good for you today, just hold it here. Or if you'd like to pedal out the feet in time with your breath, so straightening and bending alternate legs. Just working into the back of those legs. And then dropping those heels further down towards the mat. And finding some stillness. And as you do so, staying with that breath. So really long, deep inhales up into the belly, up into the chest. And exhale through the nose. And on our next inhale, we'll come up onto our tiptoes. And then exhale, lower those heels. Inhale, come up onto those tiptoes. Exhale, lower the heels. Inhale, tiptoes. Exhale, heels. And we will try and lower our forearms, so taking an inhale. And as you exhale, see if you can take a bend in the elbows, taking the forearms onto the mat. And inhale, coming back up. So exhale, really seeing if you can bend those forearms. Inhale, back up. Exhale, even if it's just a tiny amount. And inhale, back up. And just pausing here, staying with that breath again. We'll inhale our right leg up towards the ceiling, keeping those right toes pointing down towards the mat. Really pushing into that left heel, pushing equally between both hands. And then exhale, step that right foot between the hands, coming into a low lunge. You might need to help that foot through. It takes a while to get that hip flexibility going. And coming up onto your fingertips as you push through that back left heel. So really pushing into that leg. And we'll inhale, releasing those fingertips, sweeping those arms up, coming into a high lunge. And then exhale, taking your hands to heart center, and then seeing if you can hook your left elbow on the outside of that right knee. Pushing those hands to heart center. and really pushing into that back left heel. Staying with that breath. And we'll inhale, releasing, sweeping those arms up again. And this time, drop your left hand down your back and then pushing onto that left elbow with the right hand, like we did at the start. So really opening out the front of the body. And then exhale, releasing, folding forward, framing that front of that foot. And we'll step ourselves into plank. And just pausing here just for a couple of breaths. Feeling that strength. And again, really pushing into those heels. Tucking the tailbone under so that you're taking that pressure off the lower back. Take an inhale here. And as you exhale, take your weight into the left foot and see if you can take your right knee towards your right wrist. And inhale back to plank. And we'll go the other side, just pausing here just for a couple of breaths. And then see if you can take your weight into your right foot. And then take your left knee towards that left wrist. And then back to center. Again, pausing here just for a breath to reset. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, drop to your knees and lower your torso all the way down towards the mat. Inhale as you push through the hands, release the feet, squeeze those shoulder blades together. And as you exhale, come back up through tabletop, so onto your knees, sending those hips up towards the ceiling, back into that downward dog. Inhale and exhale here, just sending that breath around the body before we go the other side. So we'll inhale, send that left foot up towards the ceiling. Really push into that right heel. Really flex those left toes down towards the mat. Equal weight between both hands, so you're not collapsing further into one side than the other. Deep inhale, and as you exhale, step that left foot between the hands, coming into that low lunge again, and just pausing here, just to reset yourself. Inhale, coming up onto those fingertips, gaze forward, and then release those hands, reaching all the way back, up towards the ceiling, gaze up to the fingertips, push into that right heel. And then taking our hands through heart center, seeing if you can hook your right elbow on the outside of that left knee, coming into a twist. So pushing into those hands. Nice, everyone. Gaze over that left elbow or left shoulder. Really stable in those legs, so really pushing into that right heel if you feel yourself wobble. Very easy to wobble. And inhale as you release the hands, sweeping them up, pushing through the feet, coming up into that high lunge. And we'll drop our right hand down our back and then pressing onto that right elbow with the left hand. Coming into that tricep stretch. Take an inhale here. And as you exhale, folding over that left leg. And we'll step ourselves back into a plank. Take an inhale here. And as you exhale, take your weight into your left foot. See if you can take your right knee towards your left wrist this time. Coming into a bit of a twisty. And then back to center. So back to plank. Again, pausing here just to reset. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, take your weight into that right foot, seeing if you can take that left knee towards your right wrist. Little twist. Back to center. Inhale here, and as you exhale, drop to your knees, chin, chest, or lowering yourself all the way down, keeping those elbows tucked in. And inhale, pushing through the hands, releasing the feet, Coming all the way up into your full cobra as you inhale. And exhale, gaze over that left shoulder, seeing if you can glance towards that left heel. Inhale back to center. Exhale, gaze over that right shoulder towards that right heel. Inhale back to center. Exhale, tuck the toes under, pushing those hips all the way back up into your downward facing dog. Inhaling and exhaling here. And inhale, take those knees to a hover, gaze through the hands and step walk or hop yourself to the front of the mat, coming into a forward fold. Inhale, straighten the legs, hands onto the shins, gaze forward. Exhale, fold. And inhale, sweeping those arms all the way up. Coming up into standing. Gaze up at the fingertips. And then exhale, hands to heart center. And maybe closing down the eyes, or just finding a soft point of focus. And just resetting yourselves here. So taking your attention back to the breath. Circulating that breath around the body. Tucking your tailbone under. Squeezing your thumbs into your sternum. And just notice your heart rate. Notice your breath. Notice that heat, that energy that you've created. And on your next inhale, bend at the knees and sweeping those hands up past your ears, coming into our chair pose. Gazing up between the fingertips, palms facing each other. Opposite pull of direction, so drop those shoulders at the same time as lengthening through those fingertips. And tuck the tailbone under so that you engage the core and you don't sink too much into that lower back. Take another inhale here, and as you exhale, sink further into it. Nice. And staying with that breath. Take an inhale here. And as you exhale, folding forwards as you straighten those legs all the way into that forward fold. Release the neck. And inhale, hands on the shins, gaze forward into that flat back. Exhale, fold, plant the hands and step walk or jump yourselves into a plank. Just pausing here to reset. And then this time planting your right hand under your face and then rocking your heels to the left, sending your left arm up towards the ceiling. We'll come into our side plank. And you've got options here. You can drop that right knee just to take the pressure off, or you can float that left leg up to make it a bit harder. Gaze up towards the ceiling. Really, really breathing through it. And then exhale, drop that left hand down. Take that right hand out again so you're back to your neutral plank. And we'll go the other side. So take your left hand underneath your face and rock your heels towards the left and sending that right arm up towards the ceiling. So we're side plank on this left side. And again, options here. Drop to that knee if you need to. Or float. Just stay with that breath. Really planting that left hand. And then as you exhale, floating that right hand down and taking that left hand back into that neutral position. Inhale here and exhale, bend at the elbows, keeping them tucked into the torso. As you lower all the way down, inhale, release the feet. Come into that baby cobra, full cobra, back bend. And exhale, send those hips high. Coming back into that downward dog. And just pausing here, sending that breath around the body. And then turning your left foot out about 45 degrees, so it's pointing towards the top left corner of the mat. We'll inhale the right foot up and exhale, step that right foot between the hands, planting both feet, and inhale, releasing those fingertips, sweeping all the way up. And we're coming into our warrior one. So it's similar to the high lunge, your right knee is bent, but instead of being on the ball of your back foot, you're actually on the whole of the sole of the foot, but that left foot is pointing out towards the left side of the mat. So inhale here, and as you exhale, drop your hands behind you, interlace your fingers, shine that chest forward, and then exhale, take your right shoulder towards that right knee as you fold over, taking those arms up overhead. So really working on squeezing those shoulder blades together rather than forcing those hands unnaturally high. And checking that neck is relaxed. And breathing here, opening up those shoulders. And we'll inhale, pushing through the feet, folding all the way up, sweeping those arms up. And we'll exhale, twisting to the left, opening up those hands. We'll come into our warrior two. So adjust your left foot so it's turned in. Keep your right foot turned out. And your hands are at shoulder height. Palms facing towards the mat. Gazing over those right fingertips. And we'll inhale, reverse the warrior. So take your right palm up towards the ceiling. Take your left hand down that left leg. Really gazing up towards the ceiling. And then exhale, windmilling those arms down. Frame that front foot, twisting on the ball of that back left foot. And we'll step ourselves back into plank. Inhale here. And exhale, bend those elbows, lowering down. Inhale to your back bend. Exhale, sending those hips high. We're in our downward dog again. And turning the right foot out. Inhale, sweeping the left up. And this time, exhale, step that left foot through. Planting both feet. Inhale, sweeping those fingertips up. Into that warrior one position, so both soles of the feet planted. Right foot is turned out. And really seeing if you can engage that right glute so you can square off your hips towards the front of the mat. And exhale, dropping those hands behind you, interlacing those fingers, shining that heart forward. And we'll exhale, fold over. So taking that left shoulder towards that left knee. Neck is relaxed. Tracking those arms up. Overhead, really squeezing those shoulder blades together. Working into those shoulders. And we'll inhale, releasing, sweeping all the way up. Gazing up at those fingertips again. And exhale, opening out warrior two. So taking those hands to shoulder height. Turning that right foot in. Left foot tracking out. Bending that left knee. Dropping those shoulders down away from the ears. Let energy out through those fingertips. Strong in the legs. Core engaged. And we'll inhale, turn our left palm to face the ceiling as we sweep it up overhead. Taking that right hand down that right leg. And then exhale, windmilling those arms over, framing that front foot, rotating on the ball of that left foot. We'll step back to plank. Take an inhale here. And as you exhale, we'll lower all the way down again. Inhale, release the feet. Come into your back bend. And exhale, sending those hips high. Pausing here, sending that breath around the body. Maybe even closing down the eyes. or taking a child's pose if you need to. Just take it down a bit. Just whatever is feeling good for you now. And we'll work into the core just a bit more before we take it down. So we'll take an inhale, and as you exhale, roll yourselves forward into a plank. So really keeping the core engaged at the same, all through, tucking that tailbone under. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, send those hips high into that downward dog. Breathing into it here, just staying here for a couple of breaths before inhaling. And as you exhale, rolling forwards into that plank, keeping that core engaged at all times. Take another inhale, and we'll exhale back into that downward dog. And one more, take an inhale. And as you exhale, rolling yourselves forward into that plank. Core engaged. Inhale, and we'll exhale, push ourselves up into that downward dog. And then walking our feet towards our hands, coming into a nice ragdoll, so grabbing hold of opposite elbows, taking some sways from side to side, maybe some bounces, maybe closing down the eyes. And we'll inhale as we release those elbows, rolling all the way up, sweeping those arms above the head. And we'll exhale, hands to heart center. And just pausing here. Again, noticing your heart rate, that energy you've created, your breath, and maybe even that intention that you may have set for yourself. And we'll open up our eyes as we inhale, sweeping those arms up, and exhale, folding forwards, coming into a forward fold, planting the hands, and we'll step into a downward dog. And then taking our knees down onto the mat, we'll come into a kneeling position. And this is where we're going to take our inversion. So loads of benefits of headstands and going upside down. You really don't have to do this at all. So lots of options when it comes to inversions. You can take a waterfall position, which is just lying onto your back, and then feet up into the air. You can even get a cushion or a block just to put under your lower back. Let me demonstrate. You may not have a block, but a book works just as well. So you can stick a block underneath your hips just to elevate up a bit more. Flex the feet towards you, cactus the arms. Really nice position. Or you can use the wall. So the best way to get the legs up the wall is sit absolutely perpendicular towards the wall, and then sending those legs up and cactusing those arms out again. It's a really nice one to do before bed, actually. Or if you want to practice going into a headstand, we'll start with tripod because it's easier than the kind of yogic one. But you start from a tabletop position. So making sure your hands are underneath your shoulders, knees underneath the hips, and then take your elbows where your hands would be. Actually, this isn't the yogic one. We'll do the yogic one. Well, we can do either. No, we'll do the yogic one. Elbows where your hands are, and interlace your fingers. So you make it like a basket with your fingers. And then take your forehead down onto the mat. So you don't want the crown of your head in contact with the mat. You want the kind of between your forehead and the crown of your head. And then tucking your toes under, walking your hips up, sending your hips up, and you walk your toes towards you. And then gradually your toes become quite light, and you can just practice this. So just practice walking your fingers, your toes towards you, and taking the weight out of those feet. Or you can do the tripod one, where again, you just take your forehead down onto the mat with your hands behind you. So you form a tripod between your head and your two hands. This one's a bit easier actually, but it depends on the length of your arm. So I don't like to say what's easier and what isn't. And again, send those hips up and walk your toes towards your hands. And you get to a point where your feet become quite light, and you can just practice sending your feet up towards the sky, point the feet. But you might get to a point where you just want to practice this. Just practice finding some lightness in your feet. How are we doing? It's quite good there's not many of you, so. Oh. Any success?
Chloe's done it.
Nice. So that's it. So yeah, so Georgina, brilliant. Walk your hands. So you want a tripod. Hang on. So send those hips up and then walk your feet. Or you almost want your feet sort of half a foot behind your hands, so they suddenly become a bit lighter.
I'm just scared.
I know, it is quite scary. I know exactly what you mean. It took me ages to get over it. Hang on, let's look. Preeti, brilliant. Preeti, walk towards more, further. That's it. Brilliant. And you just want to practice before you even go, whoa, oh, before you, so it's really tempting. It's really tempting to jump. You get to here and you think, I know, I'll just jump. But
Yeah.
that's where the kind of damage comes in. You want to get to the point where actually you don't need to jump, because can you see my feet are just off?
Yeah.
And then you just send, I say just, but you can send them up then with control. But as soon as you're jumping, you've kind of lost control, which is where you can flip over. So you just really want to practice, like doing that walk. It's just a kind of drill thing. You have to take the weight out, but just practice walking them towards your hands. You might even get to the point where you can take your knees onto your elbows, so you're kind of there. And that's quite a good balance point, just to practice being a bit upside down, but you haven't got your legs up high. And then you can even take them up from there if it feels confident. Anyway, that's just a little taste. Yeah, everyone's loving it. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yes.
The show then instead.
Yeah, so you just practice feeling comfortable doing that to start with, which I know sounds a silly thing to say, but it's just getting used to being in a completely awkward, weird position, or just legs up against the wall. Anyway, we can do it another time, but let's take the energy down a bit and get onto our back.
Yeah.
Put our knees in. And just hugging our knees into our chest. Maybe taking some circles with those knees. Just massaging the lower back into the mat. And then taking your nose towards your knees. Just finding a stretch in that spine down the back of the neck. And then taking the head back down onto the mat, cactusing the arms. Take a deep inhale, and as you exhale, drop your knees towards the left. And then turn towards the right, so we feel a nice supine stretch, twist. Just a nice release. And we'll inhale, coming back through center. And then exhale, dropping those knees to the right. And turning your head towards the left. And we'll inhale back through center and exhale. Send those feet long. Take your hands down to your sides, turning your palms up towards the ceiling. And just taking your breath and your attention back to your breath, but inhaling and exhaling through the nose. And just noticing the rise and fall of your belly. Notice how you're feeling. Sometimes after inversions you can feel really energized, which is one of the benefits of them. And just enjoying that energy surge. And just feeling that gratitude for yourself, for showing up on your mat tonight. Gratitude for your body, for taking you through the practice. And take an inhale as you take your hands up overhead, interlacing the fingers and pointing through those four fingers, pointing the toes, full pencil stretch. And then taking some rock and rolls up the mat, so hands underneath your knees, just rocking and rolling the length of the mat. Or if that's not comfortable, just coming up to seated and just taking any comfortable seat that feels good for you. And hands on the knees, either palms facing the ceiling or palms face down. And just remember the intention that you set for yourself. And taking a really deep inhale into the belly, up into the chest. And then sighing it out through the mouth audibly. And just a few of those in your own time. Just releasing any negative energy. And hands to heart center. Namaste.